Millions of Americans are anxiously waiting for clarity on the next round of possible stimulus payments. The past few weeks have been full of speculation, new executive orders, and rising financial pressure on households. People across the country are asking one simple question: will there actually be another stimulus check this year? Look at this.
We're keeping that promise and strengthening Social Security for generations to come. I signed one big, beautiful bill and allowed no tax on Social Security for our great seniors.
Recently, President Trump signed several executive orders that immediately caught everyone's attention. These orders aim to stabilize the economy, manage the ongoing government shutdown, and provide targeted relief for struggling families. But the biggest question is, look at this: will Trump really send $2,000 stimulus checks funded by tariffs? Trump praised the resilience of the American people, calling them great, incredible people who've gone through things most could never imagine. And yet, for millions, the financial strain has not gone away. Prices are rising, small businesses are struggling to keep their doors open, and even essential items are becoming unaffordable. You can see it everywhere. Look at this. Nobody's spending $17 on an egg sandwich, restaurant owners say, inflation forcing tough menu choices. That one line, now seen on national news, captures how deeply inflation has hit the everyday American. While some analysts argue that inflation is slowly cooling, real-world costs tell a different story. The price of food, rent, and healthcare continues to rise, and now, with the government shutdown extending longer than expected, Americans are growing desperate for relief. That's why Trump's mention of direct stimulus checks, ranging between $1,000 and $2,000, has reignited national debate. Some lawmakers immediately labeled it a political stunt, while others said it's exactly the kind of economic boost the middle class needs right now. Once again, the big question remains. Look at this. Fact check. Will Trump really send $2,000 stimulus checks funded by tariffs? Donald Trump has revived the idea of direct stimulus checks for U.S. taxpayers, but with a twist: they would be funded exclusively from import tariff revenues. Unlike previous stimulus rounds funded through government debt, this plan would rely entirely on money collected through tariffs, fees charged to countries importing goods into the United States. Over the past few years, Trump's administration has expanded tariffs on several countries, including China and Mexico, with the goal of bringing billions of dollars into U.S. revenue. Look at this. The proposal, announced in early October 2025, calls for payments of between $1,000 and $2,000 per person, presented as a national dividend program. That would return to citizens the money collected from tariffs imposed on countries such as China and Mexico. The idea of a national dividend has drawn both praise and criticism. Supporters say it's a creative way to help American families without adding to the national debt or increasing inflation. Critics, on the other hand, claim it's a strategic political move meant to win back voters ahead of the next election. Still, the concept has captured public interest. For many struggling Americans, the source of the money doesn't matter. What matters is survival. Look at this. Trump explained that the U.S. receives billions of dollars every single day from tariff revenues. In his words, if America is collecting this much money from foreign countries, then it's time to give some of that back to the people. According to reports, Trump mentioned in interviews that his administration is considering allocating as much as $200 billion directly to the American people in the form of these checks. Look at this. Meanwhile, public opinion is split. Some economists believe this move could be an economic win-win, circulating money back into communities while strengthening domestic production. Others say it's more symbolic than practical, pointing out that tariff revenue might not be enough to cover large-scale payments. Still, many lawmakers have shown growing support for the proposal, noting that any relief at this stage could make a difference. Americans with lower and middle incomes, especially those earning $100,000 or less per year, are among those who would benefit the most. Trump's critics argue that he's using this plan to rebuild his image as a fighter for the working class, but even they admit that the idea has sparked genuine hope among struggling families. With inflation hitting historic highs, Many Americans have already begun voicing their support online, commenting things like, "I support stimulus checks, and it's about time we get relief from our own tax and tariff money." Supporters of the plan highlight one major difference between this and earlier stimulus efforts. The tariff-funded version would not require borrowing money or printing more cash, meaning it wouldn't directly fuel inflation. Instead, it would redistribute existing revenue. Look at this. But inflation remains a central concern. Nobody's spending $17 on an egg sandwich, restaurant owners say, inflation forcing tough menu choices. This headline has now become symbolic of what millions are experiencing, everyday Americans being priced out of their own economy. Even conservative-leaning outlets like Fox News have reported on the ongoing cost of living crisis, noting that families are cutting back on basic needs. It's no surprise that many see this tariff dividend idea as a practical way to bring immediate relief. Still, skeptics remain cautious. They argue that while tariffs can bring in money, they also tend to raise the cost of imported goods, meaning that, indirectly, consumers still pay the price. However, Trump's supporters counter that if properly structured, the funds could offset those costs and make American manufacturing stronger in the long run. Look at this. Another interesting point is timing. With a government shutdown, rising inflation, and political tensions at an all-time high, the announcement of a stimulus plan, even in discussion form, can shift public sentiment dramatically. Polls have shown Trump's popularity dipping slightly in recent weeks, but some analysts believe that following through with this plan could boost his ratings once again. Political analysts describe the proposal as both a financial and strategic maneuver. On one hand, it could stimulate consumer spending and ease household pressure. On the other, it could reframe Trump's image as a leader directly giving back to the people without relying on the Federal Reserve or additional government debt. Whether this plan actually passes remains uncertain. It would likely require congressional approval and detailed coordination with the Treasury Department. But the idea has already gained significant attention, and it's starting conversations across the nation. For millions of Americans, hope is the key factor. People want to believe that direct help is coming. After years of rising prices and stagnant wages, even the mention of a $2,000 check feels like a lifeline. Inflation is still squeezing Americans across every income level. Families are budgeting more carefully, skipping restaurant meals, and cutting down on extras. And as we've seen in that now famous line, nobody's spending $17 on an egg sandwich, restaurant owners say, inflation forcing tough menu choices. The frustration is real. If the proposed tariff dividend checks do become reality, it could mark one of the most unique stimulus strategies in U.S. history, funded not by debt, but by the very trade policies designed to protect the nation's economy. For now, the debate continues in Washington and across dinner tables nationwide. Americans are watching closely, waiting to see if this bold proposal will finally bring some relief to millions who need it most. If you found this update helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next Social Security or stimulus update.